This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Place to Be Nation. I am not Andrew Reich. I am Adam Murray. I am just doing a little solo bolo again. I did the same thing this time last year, just to give the numbers for the free agency, because Andrew likes to get bogged down in those and digs deep into them. So if I get these out of the way, we could just go straight to the analysis where I hate everything. He loves everything. That's not the Pelicans. And we are good to go. So free agency always used to happen on July 1st at midnight. And it used to be all the great things. Who was the first one to sign? Then again, the draft was also on a Thursday. And it was one day. Now, all of a sudden, free agency started at 6 p.m. But, of course, we had some pre-agency trades. Boston traded Drew Holiday, Portland for Anthony Simons and 4 second-round picks. Thanks for the championship, I guess. Then Boston also traded Kristaps Porzingis and a second to Atlanta. Thanks for the championship, Kristaps. Atlanta gives Boston George Niang and a second-round pick. And they funnel Terrence Mann and the number 22 pick from the draft over to the Nets. Phoenix, as we've already mentioned, did the big Durant trade to Houston for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick, and 5 second-round picks. I believe we had the Durant pick in the last episode. Also, the Desmond Bane to Orlando from Memphis for 4 second-round picks or whatever. Moving on, the Bulls traded Lonzo Ball to the Cavaliers for Isaac Okoro. Chicago's just going to keep Chicago in. Oklahoma City traded Dylan Jones and a second-round pick to Washington for the right to cut Colby Jones. No relation. Interesting fact about Dylan Jones. He was drafted by the Washington Wizards 1 year ago in a trade for the trade with the Knicks, who traded Keyshawn George and the number 51 pick, whom they funneled to Dallas in a trade and got Ariel Hakordi. So New York traded Dylan Jones to Oklahoma City, who sent 4 second-round picks. I'm sorry, they sent 5 second-round picks. And then 1 year later, dumped him and had to give up another pick just to dump him. So that's what happens when the numbers start crunching. And as I'll get into it, the numbers are going to shrink real fast, and the window's going to close real soon for Oklahoma City, because they're a team who historically does not like to pay. Utah traded Colin Sexton and a second-round pick to Charlotte for Jusuf Nurkic. And that one doesn't make any sense because Utah gave up the pick. So there haven't been any extra moves yet, but something's up. So the free agency came to be 6 p.m. waiting. Who's going to be the first 601 signing? It took a while. Dorian Finney-Smith was the first one to flip from the Lakers to Houston. So anywho, let's go down the list. First, we're going to go with the East. Atlanta, we mentioned, traded for Porzingis. They did a sign and trade. They got Nickeil Alexander-Walker from Minnesota, and they gave him a 4-year, $62 million deal. And they signed Luke Kennard for a year, $11 million. So Atlanta appears to be going all in. Who's not going all in? Boston. As we mentioned, they traded for Anthony Simons. They traded for George Niang. And they signed 2 end-of-the-bench Timberwolves to minimum contracts, Luka Garza and Josh Minot. Awesome. Brooklyn. They got Terrence Mann in that Porzingis trade, as we said. They re-signed Jair Williams, 2 years, $12 million. Nice comeback story for him. They also re-signed Day'Ron Sharpe, 2 years, $12 million. And one of the bigger trades, they finally traded Cam Johnson, and they traded for Michael Porter Jr. and an unprotected first-round pick. So, big loser in that trade, Michael Porter Jr., but he'll be shipped out eventually. But the where will Cam Johnson be moved? When will he be moved? Talk about that like every day. He finally got moved. Charlotte. They signed Mason Plumlee, 1 year veteran minimum. Milwaukee traded Pat Connaughton and 2 second-round picks to them just for as a salary dump. They re-signed Trey Mann, who bet on himself last year, and he played for only like 5 games and went out for the year. They signed him 3 years, $24 million, third-year team option. And they signed Spencer Dinwiddie for 1 year, probably better than him. Again, Chicagoan. They got Isaac Okoro for Lonzo Ball. I imagine their excuse is he's younger, he fits our timeline better, but it's Chicago. And they signed Trey Jones, 3 years, $24 million. They need a true point guard, I guess. Cleveland, as we mentioned, did that Lonzo Ball, Isaac Okoro trade. They re-signed Sam Merrill, 4 years, $38 million. And they got Larry Nance Jr. back, who was there like 10 years ago, for the veteran minimum. Detroit. We're not going to get into the... Detroit was all ready to sign Malik Beasley until he had a very, very bad day. Someone said they signed and traded for Duncan Robinson, signed him to 3 years, $48 million, which was close to what Beasley was supposed to get. He was looking at $342. They dumped Simone Fontecchio for him to Miami. They signed Karis LeVert from Atlanta, 2 years, $29 million, to replace Tim Hardaway. And they re-signed Paul Reed, 2 years, $11 million. The Indiana Pacers have done nothing as of yet. They had their heart ripped out when Miles Turner, who wanted to come back, was penny pinched and then went to pretty much their arch rival. Miami Heat re-signed Davion Mitchell, 2 years, $24 million. And then, as I mentioned, traded for Simone Fontecchio. Milwaukee, they had a quiet first couple of days of the offseason. Signed Miles Turner, 4 years, $107 million. In order to do that, had to cut Damian Lillard, stretch his 113 or something million. Ooh. As I mentioned, they had to dump Pat Connaughton for the contract of Vasily Micic, who will probably be cut and go back to Europe. Bobby Portis re-signed 3 for $44. Kevin Porter re-signed 2 for $11. Taurean Prince signed 2 years. I believe it's a veteran minimum. Gary Trent Jr., 2 years, $7.5, so maybe just a smidge above the veteran minimum for him. They got Gary Harris for a veteran minimum, and they re-signed Jericho Sims, 2-year veteran minimum. So they got players, which they didn't have. We'll see if Giannis likes that. The New York Knicks signed Jordan Clarkson, who was cut by Utah, who just kept him way too long and asked too much. So I assume he'll be a minimum deal. And they signed Gershon Yabusele from the 76ers, 2 years, $12 million. Orlando gets Trey Jones's brother, Tyus Jones, for 1 year, $7 million. But all their funds were taken up by that Desmond Bane trade, as we had mentioned. Toronto, kind of Torontoan. I don't know what they're really doing. Garrett Temple, they re-signed, 1 year veteran minimum. He's the locker room guy. Sandro Mamuklasvili for 2 years with veteran minimum. And they re-signed Jakob Poeltl, 4 year, $100 million extension. I don't really understand it. And then the Washington Wizards, earlier on, as part of pre-agency, traded for C.J. McCollum, Kelly Olynyk, and a second-round pick in order to ship out Jordan Poole and Sadiq Bey. Moving on to the Western Conference, where everybody is tougher. Presumably, everybody usually gets better in the West, except for Sacramento, who continues to be Sacramento. Starting with Dallas, Kyrie Irving signed an extension, 3 years, $119 million, as we expected. And they signed D'Angelo Russell, 2 years, $13 million, from Brooklyn. Denver was kind of busy, and I guess they kind of got lucky in a way. They got Tim Hardaway for the veteran minimum. Very good deal. They got Bruce Brown back on a veteran deal. Also, he was a key piece in their championship. They traded for Jonas Valanciunas. Sacramento, for some reason, who traded for him last year, decided to flip him for Dario Saric, which was, they saved a couple pennies, but that doesn't make much sense. And then they got Cam Johnson, who we will probably get in this trade a lot. And I think it's an upgrade for them. He fits this team better, and they need help as their window is really closing. Golden State, as of this time, has done nothing, but everything around them revolves around the restricted free agency of Jonathan Kuminga. And as we know with restricted free agents, those drag on forever. Houston doubled down on a lot of things. We mentioned the Durant trade. They declined Fred VanVleet's $40-something million option and signed him for 2 years, $50 million. They got Dorian Finney-Smith, 4 years, $53 million. Then they got Clint Capella for 3 years, $21 million. That's doubling down on big men for some reason. And then they gave a rookie extension to Jabari Smith for 5 years, $122 million. I believe that was the one. He was. We had the technical glitch of the rookie extension list, and I believe he was the one we missed, or it was him and Keegan Murray. I didn't expect him to get a deal, and he did. So Houston, all in and kind of confusing. Clippers, Harden opted out, got a 2-year, $81 million deal, as expected. Lines up with Kawhi's timeline. Nick Batum opted out of his 1 year, $5 million. They got a little pay raise, got 2 year, $11 million. And considering they just, I guess, are just going to be old, they got Brook Lopez, 2 years, $18 million, which, considering he left Milwaukee, we're like, oh, Milwaukee's done. We didn't know they had the Miles Turner card up their sleeve. Lakers, LeBron opts in and creates a whole lot of drama by doing so, because opting in doesn't give them money to go make deals, but they did get Jake LaRavia, only 2 years, $12 million. So it wasn't really much of the pay raise that Sacramento could have offered him. They could have only offered him like 5 something. So I think that was a kind of a low-key good signing for them. Memphis re-signed Jaren Jackson Jr. They signed him to a max deal, 5 years, $240 million. We knew that was coming with shipping out Desmond Bane. That was going to get money for him. Santi Aldama, they needed money for him too. 3 years, $52.5 million. They got Ty Jerome from Cleveland, 3 years, $28 million. And then Cam Spencer, 2 years veteran minimum. Ty Jerome, they've got him probably to be the backup for John Morant. And then you got Desmond Bane, you got him and KCP, who will probably be the main replacements for him. Moving on. Minnesota re-signed Naz Reid, 5 years, $125 million. A lot of people are saying that's an overpay, but he's been good for them, and he was a Sixth Man of the Year 2 years ago for them. Julius Randle got a 3-year, $100 million extension. Just sort of goes along with the same rate he's been getting. And they re-signed Joe Ingles to a veteran minimum deal. So good for Joe for still hanging around and being the good locker room guy, I guess. Just a moment of silence for Andrew Reish's New Orleans Pelicans. After their draft day thing, which we'll get into, they made 2 deals. Then we mentioned they traded for Jordan Poole and Sadiq Bey, number 40. I'm not against it. He is. We'll get into it. Then they signed Kevon Looney to a 2-year, $16 million deal, which really you invest a lot in Derek Queen, trading up to get him. And then you get Kevon Looney, who will have to share minutes with him, because Zion is going to be Zion and nobody's going to take his minutes away except for when he's injured. 42 games. Whatever. Oklahoma City Thunder gave out a ton of money, which is why I mentioned their window might be closing sooner than later. SGA got a supermax, 4 years, $285 million. Jalen Williams, the good one, got a max deal. Chet Holmgren got a max deal. I believe they're kicked in 2 years. It's a 2-year. They're eligible, and of course, you knew they were going to get it. It was just a matter of thing. But 2 max deals. There goes everybody else on your team. The other Jalen Williams, the center from Arkansas, 3 years, $24 million, and AJ Mitchell re-signed 3 years on a veteran minimum, probably 3 years, $9 million. Oh, I missed Philadelphia in the East. Philadelphia, Kelly Oubre opt-in. They got Trendon Watford, 2 years minimum deal, and Eric Gordon re-signed. So not really much going on there for them. All right. Phoenix Suns, as we mentioned, had to jettison Kevin Durant due to their shenanigans and inability to do much. So they got they re-signed Colin Gillespie on a one-year veteran minimum deal. They traded for Mark Williams after trading for his backup Nick Richards and then drafting 2 centers. So I don't know. And then they got another sneaky, possibly good deal. The EuroLeague MVP of last year, Nigel Hayes-Davis, who I believe went to Indiana. I'm not sure. Did he go to Indiana? Moving on, Portland Trailblazers just had enough of DeAndre Ayton and just said, go home. DeAndre actually left $10 million on the table to say, I will go home. Give me $25 million. I'm leaving 10. I need to get out of here. They traded for Drew Holiday, and they haven't flipped him yet, so I don't know what they're doing. And then Matisse Thybulle opted into his deal. Sacramento keeps Sacramento in. They got rid of Valanciunas and traded for Dario Saric. They tried desperately to get rid of Malik Monk, but just wound up signing Dennis Schroeder for 3 years, $45 million. And then they got Drew Eubanks from the Clippers for the veteran minimum. So let's just, one quick thing about Sacramento. You had De'Aaron Fox. You drafted Tyrese Halliburton, another point guard. And then third year later, you drafted Davion Mitchell, another point guard. Well, he's a combo guard, but another point guard. So you had 3 point guards, and then you get rid of all of them just to get Dennis Schroeder, who's now on his 10th team. I mean, good for him. A 3-year deal. He's going to stick around. He's not terrible. Sacramento, what are you? I'm just waiting for them to trade for Vucevic. Just get it over with. San Antonio Spurs signed Luke Cornett from the Boston Celtics for 4 years in a $41 million deal. Thanks for the championship, Luke. And finally, in the West, John Collins opted into his deal, and they haven't done any moves, but they were very busy in the draft, so something is coming for them, like I said, with the Jordan Clarkson trade. Something is up their sleeve. They're going to weasel their way into something, especially with the younger ages picks really going against the older ages picks. So change might be coming in Utah. Anywho, there we go. Those are our free agency wildcard roundup. Most of the top, I believe something like 30 of the top 50 free agents are already signed with new teams or re-signed. Obviously, restricted free agents, that just draws it out because nobody's going to re-sign nobody's going to put an offer in. Nobody has money to put an offer in but Brooklyn, and Brooklyn just spent a pretty penny to get that first round pick for Michael Porter Jr. So I think it's just going to be a long qualifying offer, or they'll do an Isaac Okoro. Let's just sign you to a kind of a 2-year deal and see how it goes. But anywho, for Andrew Reich in absentia, I am Adam Murray. Have a good one.